What is up, YouTube? And it's Andromeda, and we are back with another reaction video. Today we're gonna react to another mystery video, of course, by one of the amazing YouTuber documentaries and mystery videos that he does. His name is LEMMiNO. If you want to subscribe to his channel, he does amazing work as always. Today we're gonna react to an older video called the Dyatlov Pass. Sorry, I can't pronounce words in Russian, but anyways, if you guys know something about this case, like an expedition team basically went into like some snowy mountain and they were never heard of again. People from whether it was aliens that got abducted or they were killed by the secret government. Who knows? There's no trace of their bodies. Well, there was, but there's no trace on how they died basically or why they panicked. But hopefully this video can shed some insight. If you like this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, like, share with your friends, and let's get on with this video.
In early 1959, a group of hikers decided to head out on an expedition across a mountainous region of Western Soviet Union. The group consisted of 9 experienced men and women greatly familiar with the Siberian wilderness.
Imagine these people can't believe got lost and they were so, knowledgeable.
Best. Despite a criminal investigation, photographs and journal entries, the case remains unsolved after more than half a century.
What year was this case even open?
Of Dyatlov Pass.
Dyatlov Pass. Alright, that's how you pronounce the word. Thank you. Let me know. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. It feels kind of weird watching this video when I'm alone in the house. Kind of gives me like an eerie vibe.
In the early morning of January the 23rd, 1959, a ski and hiking team of 10 boarded a train headed for the Ural Mountains in the middle of the Soviet Union. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, with Igor Dyatlov as the group's leader.
Oh, okay, no wonder
the train slowly advanced deep into the mountainous Siberian taiga, the group diary received a final entry. I wonder what awaits us on this hike. Will anything new happen?
Hey, why are you hiking
Over
anyways?
The next few days, the group continued to alternate between modes of transportation. First a bus, then a truck, then a horse and sleigh, and eventually they proceed on foot.
Wow, what a journey.
And eventually decided to head back while the remaining group
could be
of 9
the coldness, the altitude, the hiking.
These photos were taken just before they parted ways, and it would be the last time he saw his friends alive.
It's very lucky that we have these photos of us now.
Across the snow-covered outback and documented everything of note using diaries as well as multiple
and the diaries.
Recovered photos and journal entries suggest that the trek progressed as one would expect, with no unforeseen complications. Just lots of snow, bitter cold, and an increasingly arduous landscape.
Respect to these guys, because I don't think I would do that type of expedition, especially in Russia where like the cold is really cold. The environment is dangerous during the winter. We had 2 world conquerors that couldn't even conquer Russia during the cold, so it's not a very good idea, hanging out in Russia during the winter or cold season.
Photos recovered from the cameras, and the last sentence of the final entry reads, "It is difficult to imagine such a comfort on the ridge, with shrill, howling wind, hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements."
I know. I like how LEMMiNO uses this little wind effect. That's probably like the last sound they ever heard in the freezing cold temperatures. Jesus, man, what a way to go.
A few weeks later, friends and relatives begin to worry. No one has heard from Igor or any of the other members of the group.
For how long?
After much debate, a team of volunteers eventually head out to find them. On February the 26th, the search party is finally able to locate the camp on the slope. It's obvious to the first at the scene that something has gone horribly wrong. The tent is in shambles, covered by a thin coat of snow. The hikers' belongings and equipment was found orderly placed inside the tent, but the tent itself had been slashed open with a knife from the inside.
Okay, I was about to say
the next day, 9 pairs of footprints lead the search volunteers down the slope towards the nearby woods. Given that the footprints left rather mild indentations in the snow, would suggest that they descended the slope in a rather calm and orderly fashion, as opposed to running away in panic. The footprints could be tracked for about half a kilometer.
Damn, they went that far?
Until the trail was completely covered by snow. So they continued in the direction of the trail and under a large cedar tree at the edge of the forest, next to the remains of an improvised campfire. They found the frozen bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and
Jesus
Yuri
Christ.
Krivonoshenko.
I'd be super scared.
It
Hell
would
no,
take
man.
over 2 months for the bodies of all 9 hikers to be recovered.
2
The
months.
first 2 were found
Jesus, just for
severely
searching for bodies.
underdressed. No jackets, no pants, no gloves, hats, boots,
I mean,
or
if these
anything
photos are
else
legit, damn,
one
I can't
might
believe we
expect
actually have
in the
them. Oh
frigid
my god.
climate. Only light shirts,
Look how well
underpants, and
preserved the
socks.
bodies are.
At the time of their
Crazy
death,
how
it would
what
have been
cold weather
around
does to
30
the body, you
degrees
know.
below zero. The cedar tree had signs of damage, as if someone had climbed it, with branches broken up to 5 meters high. Perhaps they were attempting to locate a tent in the pitch-black darkness, or perhaps they were trying to hide from someone or something.
I mean, they were trying to
The
locate the
next
tent.
3 hikers were
Why
found
did they
at varying
even leave?
distances between the tent and the tree,
Why
covered
did
by
they need a
few
knife to cut it from
centimeters of
the
snow.
inside?
They were better
to get
dressed than
out?
the previous 2, but not by much, as they still lacked essential items such as boots, hats, and gloves.
See, that's
They were
all
all
weird.
found
Why?
facing
Who
the
does
direction
that?
of
Who
the
leaves the tent like
as if they
that?
were
Something happened.
struggling
Like
to
they saw
return
something
at
or
the
heard
moment of
something and they
death.
panicked and
While
left the
some of
tent.
them
That's for
had
sure.
sustained minor injuries, all 5 had died of hypothermia. It should also be noted that 4 of them had died while intoxicated. The
Of
last
course,
4
man.
hikers were found at the bottom of a small hill, covered by 3 meters of snow, 75 meters from the tree, in the opposite direction of the tent. 3 of them had sustained lethal injuries.
Where
One
though?
had a fractured skull, and
Oh.
2 had fractured multiple ribs and suffered massive internal bleeding. The medical
How?
examiner believed
Get
the injuries
punched?
had been sustained from a fall
Stabbed?
and compared it to a car crash. The injuries had been sustained while they were all alive and could not have been inflicted by another person.
Interesting.
She
And
had
what
also
was
been
it then?
found
The
with
snow?
gaping eye sockets, and one
A
of the
bear
women
just went
had
and
a
the Yogi the bear
missing
just went to
tongue.
say hey and they
The
just got
last of the
panicked
4
and they
had a
tripped and
broken
whatever.
nose and a deformed neck, but died of hypothermia. The most mysterious of all, 3 articles of clothing were later found to be abnormally radioactive. On May the 28th,
yeah, that's
the criminal
strange. I have no
case
explanation
was
for that.
discontinued with a cryptic and incredibly vague conclusion. The lead investigator writes in the final report, "The cause of death was an unknown compelling force which the hikers were unable
that's for
to
sure.
overcome."
I'm assuming
Not
either
exactly
like a
the most
heavy snowfall that
satisfying
they
answer, and barely
maybe
a
they tripped like I
conclusion at
said
all.
or some animal
So,
attacked them.
just in case the Galactic Empire
Supposedly
had
isn't
nothing
a
to do
human
with the death
physical
of the hikers,
attack.
is it possible to explain some of the more enigmatic details in a less vague yet credible fashion?
I
Let's
don't
give it
know.
a shot.
I mean, it could. We can. That's what I'm
The
trying to
fact
do
that
right now.
Dyatlov was missing her tongue has been taken way out of proportion.
Whoa.
Some say that it was cut off or ripped out while she was still alive. Others say it was eaten by scavengers after death, while some even claim the tongue was later found somewhere else. But I've read the medical reports, and this is what it says. The diaphragm of the mouth and the tongue is missing.
Okay, yeah,
That's it.
we just
There's
have a tongue
nothing
that's
about
missing.
cutting or ripping or anything. I don't know how or
If it was
where
an
began,
animal,
but
then
there seems to
wouldn't
be an
the rescue team
exaggerated
notice
importance
like animal
placed on
tracks
this
if they found the
missing
human
tongue,
tracks?
while in reality it's a rather minor detail.
That's kind of missing
At
from the
least
story.
the medical examiner believed it to be a minor detail, otherwise he would likely have elaborated further. For example, the same section of the same report states, "Gaping orbits, the eyeballs are absent." Equally mysterious, right? Well, no, because the medical examiner does provide an explanation for both. Soft tissue injuries to the head
tongue's
are
missing and
post-mortem
eyes?
changes to the Benina's corpse, which was recently exposed to water prior to detection.
I mean,
he even adds putrefaction and decomposition.
I can see
in
that. I was about to say that.
parentheses
I mean,
clarify exactly
I don't
what it
know
means. And this was
when
not
these
even
eyes and tongue were
exclusive to
missing, but I mean the
Benina,
body
as the 4
is
last
dead, so I
bodies
mean
were
I'm
all
assuming the
damaged due
organs
to the
might
melting
fall
snow.
off, you know.
Now, some who
Like the
claim
eyes
that
probably
her
just
tongue
roll
must have been
from the
removed while she was still
eye
alive
socket.
have pointed to the fact that she had about 100 grams of blood in her stomach. But that's not
I
exactly
don't know, man.
true
I'm not a
either.
scientist. I'm not
The
like a
relevant
doctor.
portion
I
of the
don't know.
forensic examination reads, "The stomach contained up to 100 cubic centimeters of a dark red, slimy mass." That's about 10 centiliters of something, most likely food, mixed with something red, most likely blood. So we don't know how much blood was in her stomach, just that there was blood in her stomach. Which isn't that strange, given that she was suffering from massive internal bleeding.
Yeah.
One of the most mysterious aspects of this case is that 3 separate
clothes that
articles
were
of clothing
radioactive.
discovered on 2 of the bodies were found to be
I don't know,
radioactive,
maybe they put
which
something on their
does
bodies
indeed sound a bit
and that
mysterious,
later
but you have to keep in mind that
injured
almost
the they
everything
felt the
is
side effects
slightly
later on. That's why they
radioactive.
escaped the tent.
So we need more details. The radiological studies claim that under normal circumstances, an area of 150 square centimeters should not exceed 5,000 disintegrations per minute. Only 3 articles of clothing exceeded or equaled that limit at 5,000 dpm, 5,600 dpm, and 9,900 dpm. The only explanation given in the report is that the clothes were contaminated as radioactive dust fell from the atmosphere, or the clothes were susceptible to contamination when in contact with radioactive substances.
Well, first of all, how far is this place from Chernobyl? I mean, this place is in Russia, you know.
Clothes were contaminated, but it's not unrealistic.
The radioactivity around Russia is still active somewhere for sure.
But just in case it wasn't due to the elements, there may be an alternative explanation.
I don't think it's due to the elements. That's so weird. Like snow being radioactive. I mean, could be if it's coming from a particular place.
Secret plutonium production plant for nuclear UFOs in the form of orbs of light moving across the night sky for a few seconds up to several minutes.
They could be stars. And,
these include 3 soldiers and
I
2
doubt
different hiking
people
groups.
track how a star
witnesses
movements
also
because
claim
there's
that
like a
the
variety in
indigenous Mansi
space.
population, as well as a group
But I
of
mean, I don't deny the
geologists
existence of
had
UFOs
told
either, so.
them that they had observed
Plus, it kind
fireballs
of
in the
explains
sky
the
around
radioactive
time
parts of the
incident.
clothes, in a way.
The problem with UFO sightings is that they are, well, unidentified and often unverifiable as a result. Only one of the hiking groups reported to have seen the UFO during the night of the incident, while the other sightings occurred before or after. Then there's this. This is the very last photo taken with one of the hiker's cameras.
Oh wow, we
it
got a last
appears
photo?
to be a photo of some type of light source taken in the middle of the night.
Probably a fire?
The photo is about as
I don't know.
undescriptive as the UFO it is claimed to depict.
Yeah, this photo is
It
not
could no
that
doubt
very
be
helpful.
a
It's so
photo of a
blurry.
UFO, and it could no doubt
But there's
be
definitely
a photo
light
of a
coming from
candle,
somewhere.
flashlight, fire, stove, or anything else.
I'm saying it's a fire.
Let's assume that it is a photo of something in the night sky. What could it potentially be depicting? I can think of a few possibilities. A rocket, a piece of a rocket, man-made space debris during re-entry, a crashing aircraft, or perhaps a meteor. None of which would be too
maybe
surprising,
a
given
meteor.
that
I don't
this
see
is the
the
Soviet
four. A
Union
rocket
in the middle
maybe
of the
too.
Cold War as well as the space race. So there would have been
But
a
where's
lot
the
of
debris
alien
if it was a
activity.
rocket
At the
or,
time
you know.
when space exploration was about as fresh as a prince living in an affluent LA neighborhood, it's not surprising.
And that's interesting
that
too, because
people
I'm not
were
taking in
unable to
consideration the
identify
time.
the mysterious
This happened in
lights.
19-something.
Regardless, it could not have landed close to the hikers, as it would have been found by the search teams. And if the object had already been recovered,
The thing that's
there
just
should have
getting
been
me about this
evidence
case
in
is
the
the
form of a
radioactive
crash
clothes,
site,
and
footprints, and
that's so
other
hard to
activity
explain.
on the ground. So, given the fact that there is no obvious connection between the UFO and the hiker's disappearance, I'll put this in the spooky red herring box.
Oh, that's a nice box.
So, what happened? Why did they leave the tent? Why was it slashed open from the inside? How did some of them sustain such major injuries while the others simply succumbed to the cold? Why were so many of them underdressed? I think the biggest mystery is how it's been able to remain a mystery.
I'm just saying
given
Russia's
the abundance of information.
Russia's environment is
after spending the better
definitely
part
scary.
of this month hiring multiple Russian translators, reading through a massive amount of material ranging from theories about a KGB cover-up to a simple avalanche accident, this is
The fact
what
that
I believe to be
Russia
the
has
most
their own conspiracy
credible
theories about the
explanation.
KGB, you know, and as we
First
have
of
like
all,
the CIA.
why would they leave the tent? That seems to be the most important missing piece of the puzzle. I
mean,
would
they
argue
definitely
that
saw
the only
something.
thing that could make them leave would have to be an immediate threat
Yeah.
inside the tent.
Definitely.
If something was outside, such as an animal or a UFO,
Or maybe
then there
someone
would be no
called them
reason to
for
keep
help.
the tent open. There were no signs of an avalanche. However, they could have escaped believing an avalanche was tumbling towards them. The problem with that theory is that the footprints show them walking in a calm and orderly manner down the slope, as opposed to running away in panic.
I mean, it
So
was at night,
something
that's for
caused
sure
them
when
to
they left.
panic
Maybe they
inside
didn't
the
want to
tent,
run because
but
they didn't
once
know
outside,
where were
they
they going.
calmed down and made a conscious decision to walk down the slope. Now, take a look at this.
And maybe
photo.
someone did
The
have a lighter.
pipe
That's why we
sticking
have
out
like
of
the camera
tent
that had
entrance
something,
is the exhaust
you know,
pipe
being
of the
reflected on the
internal
lens.
stove. This was a completely unique and homemade design, as the leader of the group had built the stove himself. We know they had used the stove on the night of the incident before the incident took place, as partially eaten pieces of fried ham and bacon were found inside the tent. I think that after disassembling the stove and removing the exhaust pipe, the embers inside the stove were accidentally reignited. As the exhaust pipe had been removed, the smoke would have filled the tent in seconds. As they attempted to get control of the flame, they cut a few holes at the top of the tent to vent the smoke. When that didn't work and it became increasingly difficult to breathe, the side of the tent was slashed open and they all escaped in a state of panic. There's even more evidence to support this theory.
But what about the reactive
part? Members of the group were found with burn marks on both their bodies and clothing, which could definitely have been a result of the improvised fire under the tree, or perhaps a scalding hot metal stove. Some of them were also found with blood around their mouth, and coughing up blood could be a symptom of smoke inhalation. Then there's this photo, taken the day before the incident. The jacket has obviously been burned, but the question is how? It's possible that sparks from the stove had accidentally set the jacket aflame. Okay, so they make it outside and quickly realize what a terrible situation they're in. Sub-zero temperatures, no shelter, underdressed, in the middle of a snowstorm, in the middle of the night,
conditions to be, sleeping around with.
At this point, I think one or
Can't
more
believe
of them
the animals
made a
have to
decision
endure
to
this
head
kind of
for the
environment
nearest
too.
shelter, which they would have known to be the woods. The reasoning behind this
I'm
decision
just glad,
is likely
I live in a
multifaceted.
decent
The smoke from
neighborhood.
the tent could have made it impossible to stay
I don't
within
have
its
to
proximity,
worry about
and/or
traveling
the smoke may have caused
like
them
this.
to believe that the tent was on fire. Some of them were intoxicated, which could have affected their judgment as well as their sensibility to the
Why do
cold.
people need to be
And they may
intoxicated in these
also
type of
have
conditions,
believed it to
man?
be
That's like a
closer to
guaranteed
the
way to
woods
die.
than they actually
Like you just
were.
increase the probability
So
of
they
actually
finally
dying.
reached the woods and immediately set out to make a fire. Some climbed a tree and scavenged the surrounding area, while those who are more properly dressed head a bit deeper into the woods.
That's
About
too much of a
75
panic
meters
for
from
just
the
a fire.
tree, four of them
It's freezing out
trigger
there.
a minor
The fire won't
avalanche,
last long.
taking them over the edge of a ravine with a drop of about 3 meters. As the bottom is filled with rocks and ice, they sustain lethal injuries. 3 of the other 5 hikers decide to head back for the tent, while the remaining 2 slowly freeze to death around a fading flame.
Well, so that's the case of Dyatlov Pass. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. I suck speaking Russian. I'm just a Mexican American guy. But anyways, nothing about that. I mean, overall, the video, it was a pretty solid video. There isn't much information, tragically, about this case. The hikers, like you saw in the video, died of extreme coldness, hypothermia. My explanation, I feel like they panicked. I don't know. I just like the chimney. It's a reasonable theory, but considering how, who in their right mind would go outside in the cold weather at night? Because this happened at night. I'm assuming that they opened the tent open, walking down slowly. I'm assuming just because they can't see the darkness in front of them. Obviously they're trying to run away from something, whether it was, I guess, the fire they were afraid of a fire being started in their tent, or like some creature or something, scared them and whatnot. And it's just so interesting because I don't know, the part that really gets me is the radioactive clothes. I have no type of explanation whatsoever for that. These type of the mysteries that it's very difficult to solve, considering how close it is to present time compared to the Roanoke case. Wow, man, the only thing I have to say about this is that you never go to Russia during the winter or when you're going off these exploring journeys and whatnot. But overall, I think it was a pretty solid video. Again, thanks to LEMMiNO for creating these type of videos. And if you like this video, please remember to give it a like, share, comment with your friends, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.